The crisp Colorado autumn air had always been my sanctuary, a balm for the soul. I sought out the deepest, most isolated pockets of wilderness, places where the silence was so profound it hummed. My usual spot, a hidden clearing at the end of a forgotten dirt track, was my solace. It was where I went to escape the cacophony of the world, to feel truly unburdened and free. This particular trip was a spur-of-the-moment decision, a desperate need for that quiet wilderness to soothe the gnawing anxiety that often clung to me, a quiet fear of fading into nothingness, unseen and unheard, a meaningless echo in a vast, indifferent world. Just an hour before sundown, with the forest beginning to stretch long, skeletal shadows, I embarked on a short, familiar trail. The air was cool, carrying the scent of pine and decaying leaves, and the only sound was the rustle of my own footsteps. Then, through a gap in the trees about 60 yards ahead, I saw him. A man. He was moving strangely, his arms waving in jerky, almost frantic motions, his head nodding. Though too far to hear, I could see his lips moving, as if engaged in an animated conversation with an invisible companion. My gut tightened. This was my isolated spot. No one ever came here. I waited, my breath hitched, expecting someone to follow, but he was utterly alone, talking to the empty air. The unsettling image vanished as he drifted deeper into the twilight-draped woods. A cold shiver snaked down my spine. The sanctuary felt compromised. The peace I craved now seemed to mock me, leaving me exposed. I retreated to my small camp, the earlier calm replaced by a simmering unease. My mind raced, trying to rationalize what I had seen. A lost hiker? Someone disturbed? The possibilities were endless, and none of them brought comfort. I tried to focus on the familiar ritual of making camp, but my hands trembled slightly as I gathered firewood. As darkness swallowed the last vestiges of daylight, I lit a small fire, shrouding most of its flickering glow to avoid drawing attention. I settled into my camp chair, staring into the embers, the silence now heavy, ominous, punctuated only by the erratic thump of my own heart. I kept telling myself it was nothing, just a strange encounter, a fleeting aberration. But the insidious tendrils of paranoia had already begun to coil around me. Was he still out there? Was he watching? 2 hours into the oppressive night, a faint sound drifted through the dense foliage. A murmur, a low grumble, impossibly distant, yet distinct. It was the man's voice, speaking to himself again. But this time, there was no light. No flashlight beam piercing the inky blackness. He was moving in absolute darkness, deeper in the woods. My stomach clenched. It was impossible, surely, that he would stumble upon my concealed campsite by chance. I froze, every nerve-ending screaming. I listened, desperate for the sound to fade, to tell myself he was just passing through, oblivious to my presence. 30 agonizing seconds later, the voice finally died away. The silence that followed was worse than any noise. It was a suffocating blanket, pressing down on me, amplifying every imagined creak of a branch, every whisper of the wind. My mind began to play tricks. Was that a shadow moving at the edge of the firelight? A faint rustle in the undergrowth that wasn't the wind. My sanity felt like a thin pane of glass, just about to shatter. The next hour was an eternity of hypervigilance, my muscles rigid, my ears straining into the void. My own breath seemed deafening. Then, around 11 p.m., the forest exploded with a sudden, rapid rush of footsteps, bursting from directly in front of my dimmed campfire. I leaped from my chair, my hand instinctively closing around the cold, reassuring grip of my pistol. The man I had seen earlier burst into the small clearing, stopping abruptly just 10 feet from me on the opposite side of the fire. He wasn't talking now. Instead, a slow, unsettling smile spread across his face. Not a wide, maniacal grin, but a soft, almost friendly curve of the lips, utterly devoid of warmth. He just stood there, staring at me, his eyes reflecting the dying embers of my fire. My rational mind screamed for an explanation, but my primal fear had taken over. I raised the gun, aiming squarely at his chest. He met my gaze, then flickered his eyes down to the pistol, then back to my eyes. The smile vanished, replaced by an unreadable blankness. For a terrifying second, I felt an almost magnetic pull, a sense of impending, violent action. Then, just as suddenly, the smile returned. He turned, the unsettling grin still fixed, and melted back into the impenetrable darkness of the woods. I didn't waste a second. My hands moved in a blur, frantically dismantling my camp with one hand, the other still clutching the pistol. The cold, metallic taste of fear filled my mouth. I backed away, then turned and fled, heading in the opposite direction from where he had disappeared. Every rustle of leaves, every snapped twig sent a jolt of terror through me. I swore I could hear his muffled voice again, just beyond the reach of my hearing, talking to himself. Or perhaps talking to me. What he was doing out there, what he wanted, remains a chilling, unanswered question. But one thing is clear. Without my preparation, without that cold piece of steel in my hand, I doubt I would have made it out of that forest. Have you ever found yourself in the deep wilderness, seeking solace, only to find something unsettling, something that stripped away your sense of security and left you questioning your own sanity? Share your own chilling encounters or moments of profound unease in the comments below. I'm eager to hear your stories of the wild.